Education Committee on, let's see, this is 2222022. I think I've got that right. Okay. Uh, Reverend Payne, would you have the prayer for us? What number are you?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, and we just thank you for all your many blessings. We never pass up the chance to thank you, Lord, for all your many blessings upon us. Lord, we just ask you to lead us and guide us in all deliberations today. Let us keep in mind those that we're serving, that we will better serve those future generations, our posterity, in all things that we do. First, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay. Senator Harold. I'm sorry. Call the wrong Senate. Senate Bill 508. We're working off of LC 500326. Senator Parent, the Dual Enrollment Act. If you will, tell us about this bill, Senator.
Chairman, thank you for the time. Legislation, 508. It's pretty simple. It just would require collection, aggregation, more comprehensive data for our dual enrollment program. Passionate about the for our students who are excellent in the program, and we've been working on some ways to make sure taking its next steps. So this bill is why is it so important? It saves the state education dollars, saves students tuition and time, and can remove impediments and bolster motivations to earn their college degrees. So in Senate Bill 508, we asked the Georgia Student Finance Commission be given access to data and provide annual reports on the dual enrollment program so that we as policymakers can analyze participation and outcomes. With this data, we can better understand the program and its successes and gaps, which then in turn means the better we can effectively target the program and wisely spend our taxpayer dollars. This is such an important program that helps students earn valuable college credit in high school, and it deserves and needs regular analysis to keep it current and successful. Here in Georgia right now, we do have robust participation in dual enrollment, but we have only limited data on success rates and cost savings. And we don't have that data disaggregated by student groups according to race, gender, ethnicity, economic status, and geographic location. So if you just look at page 2 of the bill, you'll see that's really the heart of it. We would be requesting data on participation rates, success rates of credits earned, success of students who participate in achieving milestones like graduating high school and enrolling in college, how effective dual enrollment credit is in reducing time and expense to earn degrees, common factors in dropping or failing dual credit courses, whether we're meeting program objectives, and cost savings for students and the state. It's important to regularly look at where we are with the program so we can improve it and target our funds effectively. That's really the heart of the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any questions from the committee? Senator Barnes, 4.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate the interest in dual enrollment. As you know, we share a desire to increase the success of that program. I do have some questions. Does GSFC have the data that is necessary to provide the requested information?
No, right now they do not have all of this data.
And can
But
you,
it's, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. So I did have this bill a couple of years ago, as a matter of fact, before you joined us here, Chairman Burns. And we did pass it out of this committee. Obviously, it didn't make it all the way through the process. At that time, I worked with the governor's office and identified, they helped me identify, I should say, student finance as the appropriate body to gather and publish all this info. But right now they don't. That's kind of part of the point of the bill. Right now, they do not have all of this data.
Paul, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
have you had a chance to sit down with GSFC and kind of operationalize how this would be available? And
Yes, sir.
provided? And do you feel they're comfortable with these expectations?
Well, I'm sure they can, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think that, yes, they are a very competent agency that would be capable of carrying out the tasks as, asked by the members of the General Assembly.
One final question. It appears that TCSG and USG would likely have the raw data. Is that a fair statement?
So, they have some of the data. DOE has some of the data. And I believe we'll hear from DOE.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Senator Orr, what number?
Mr. Chair, thank you. To the author, yes, I recall when we passed this similar legislation out of the committee 2 or 3 years ago. My question is, so we already have a dual enrollment act, and it already provides for the commission to collect and monitor enrollment and student record data for eligible dual credit courses taken. And so what you're doing with your language is stipulating some data points that will help us all get a fuller picture of
That's right.
the progress students are making and any impediments in the way and what the trend lines are. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. I mean, you can see from this language on lines 14 and 15 that it's not nearly as sort of specific and detailed. And so that's probably why we have some of the data points, but not all. That could be useful to us to evaluate and improve the program and save taxpayer money.
And if I could follow up, Mr. Chair, on lines 18, the insert of language on 18 through 22, it ensures that the governor and the Senate and the House get an annual report.
Yes.
Because that's not in current language, right? That's right. And whatever they're assessing or gathering over there is not submitted to us in any report, but will be with passage of this bill.
That's right. And it's certainly not, I wouldn't say they're hiding it or anything. I mean,
No.
you can go find it. But when we were, taking up a couple of years ago, rewriting some of the specifications around the dual enrollment program, it was brought to our attention by some policy analysts that we really were flying a little bit blind in passing that legislation because we didn't have the totality of the data to help best inform us as to what would be the best and most targeted way, given the aims of the program, to be making the changes. And so that was sort of the original genesis of the bill, things that we sort of need to know if we're going to attack it most efficiently would be, are students earning the credits? Are they enrolling and graduating? Are they saving time and money? What groups are best able to carry this out? If you don't have the data, it's kind of hard to structure the program as efficiently as could be possible.
And the current language already provides for the department, the OPP, and the post-secondary institutions to cooperate with and provide data to the commission. This simply clarifies that for the commission to aggregate that and present a report annually.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, I'm a
Sure.
firm believer in, if you're gonna create a program, it would be wise to know what that program's aims are. And then you can have a sense of how best to achieve the aims, all within the understanding that we're spending taxpayer money. So, we should be able to do that operating from a place of information and knowledge.
Thank you so much.
Any other question from the committee? I have a couple of questions and I want to make a statement of clarification. So anybody who may not understand how this program works, the legislature several years ago had several early enrollment programs and post-secondary education. You could do dual enrollment. And the purpose of it was to give high school students who had the desire and the ability to compete on a post-secondary level would be able to and go ahead and enroll while they were still high school students in post-secondary programs and get post-secondary credit as well as earning credit toward their high school diploma. They'd also get post-secondary credit for just as if they had early enrolled. I guess the question that I have is, since this is and let me back up and say this, we had to redo the bill a couple of years ago because of the cost. We limited it. Earlier, it was pretty much unlimited. It was out of control. We had a lady sat in the back corner of the room one time that made the statement, said, I think it's wonderful because this is just like exploratory courses for high school students. That was not the purpose of dual enrollment. Dual enrollment were people who wanted to enroll in higher ed that had a specific goal in mind, wanted to take specific courses for college credit. I guess my question on all this is that since every high school student in the state of Georgia, to my knowledge, has the ability to avail themselves of dual enrollment up to 30 hours. One of the restrictions we put on it at that time when we redid the bill 2 or 3 years ago was that it would be limited to juniors and seniors. And the reason we did that was because they had a better idea of the courses that they would be interested in. So from that standpoint, we were trying to, number one, limit the expenditures of the state of Georgia to those students who had a higher probability of knowing what their educational path would look like instead of it being, as was described, an exploratory venture. I think the figures will speak for themselves in terms of whether they pass or fail at post-secondary level. I'm not sure what we do with that information when we had it, because you can't preclude anybody from taking the 30 hours. And really it's the benevolence of the state, which is agreeing to pay both the college tuition and the high school expenses that we pay under dual enrollment. So I guess my question is, what really, I mean, from a formative standpoint in terms of modifying policy, what policy would we really modify if we knew any of these factors, since everybody in school, all the students in school can avail themselves of it up to 30 hours?
Well, yeah, that's a great, point, Mr. Chairman, that, that's the way we ended up doing it 2 years ago. But at that time, there were a lot of questions raised about maybe we would have taken a slightly different approach or done it slightly differently had we had comprehensive data. Because I agree with you, I'm not, exploratory is great, but the purpose of dual enrollment and the things that I've been trying to work on and lift up do really surround helping kids move toward a degree in less time and with less expense to themselves, their families, and taxpayers.
That was my desire in the bill, was to see that we would get maximum utilization or maximum benefit in trying to focus the program. But I don't know how any of the analysis of whether they're passing or failing. I don't think we're going to step in and say you can't take any more courses because you failed the last 3 courses. Or I don't see that we're going to restrict anybody's ability to take any of these courses that are available to them based on any of the demographics that are listed in the bill. I mean, it looks to me like, if you need late night reading, you could read it, but I'm not sure how it would affect a change of policy, because this is open to everybody for 30 hours. And unless the state wanted to say, well, if you fail 2 courses, you've got to drop out. the same question I'd ask is, what if you pass every course, but you decided to change your major and it's no benefit to you, and where your ultimate degree is going to be? So I think there's a lot of questions in my mind to be answered about, really, we can collect a lot of data, but if it does not lead to a more informed policymaking standpoint.
Well, I think it, from where I sit, I think it certainly would. And the rhetorical questions you were just asking are all very good ones, and exactly why it would be useful to come from a position of knowledge to even be able to answer them.
If
I
you-
mean, in fact, everything you listed to me are reasons why it would be useful to have the data.
Well, if you would share with us the proposed policies changes that you think could be made as a result of the collection of this data.
I can certainly do that, but I will offer a caveat, which is that until you have the data, it's kind of hard to say what are the proposed policy changes. That's sort of the purpose of the bill at its foundational level, is that I would prefer to not be suggesting a lot of changes without sort of really knowing how is it working right now. But I am happy to your question, Mr. Chairman, I can definitely draw up a few things from, especially going back to my file from 2 years ago, that I thought it would have been useful to know. And then that could have informed our debate a little more.
Any other questions?
Uh,
Chairman Burns.
I appreciate the author, and we agree, data-driven decisions are superior, no doubt. Okay, but I share some of the chairman's concern on the impact on policy. And the other thing I'd like just to request, would you include in your evaluation and proposal a fiscal note? What will the data cost to be provided? And then, as the chairman suggests, how might we then adopt better policies based upon that information?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We have one person signed up to speak, Jennifer Ellis, all for Ed. Okay. It's on Zoom.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Thank you, Chairman, and distinguished members of the Higher Education Committee. My name is Jennifer Ellis. I serve as Director of State Government Relations at All for Ed, a national nonprofit organization that advances equitable policies and practices so all students graduate high school prepared to complete post-secondary education and achieve success in a rapidly changing world. On behalf of All for Ed, I'm pleased to offer this testimony in support of SB 508. As a leader in dual enrollment and as a state that has invested considerable finances into its dual enrollment program, SB 508 will offer needed transparency for taxpayers and lawmakers into how this investment is being made and who it's benefiting. Post-secondary education is vital for economic success. Today, 80% of good-paying jobs require post-secondary education, and 56% require a bachelor's degree or more. We know that individuals with post-secondary education are far less vulnerable to economic downturns. This was demonstrated recently during the COVID recession, where the unemployment rate for people with bachelor's degrees never went over 8.4%. This is compared to 17.6% for those with high school degrees, but no post-secondary education. While the nation's high school graduation rate has reached an all-time high of 86%, students are insufficiently prepared for higher education, with about 70% of students who are enrolled at two-year colleges requiring remediation to master academic content they should have learned in high school. Additionally, nationwide, college enrollment is declining at an alarming rate, with the National Clearinghouse recently reporting a 13% decline in freshman enrollment since 2019. Evidence demonstrates dual enrollment and early college opportunities more broadly increase college enrollment and completion. Unfortunately, these opportunities are not available to enough students, and evidence suggests that historically, underserved students are less likely than their peers to have access to dual enrollment and other forms of advanced coursework. SB 508 would empower the Georgia Student Finance Commission to set participation and performance targets to strengthen the dual enrollment programs for all students and to address any gaps that they find as that data comes in. This bill would additionally expand current data collection and monitoring to provide lawmakers with the additional data they need to fully evaluate the success of this critical investment, including information about the number of students who actually complete their dual enrollment credits and common factors among courses that are not completed, rates of participating students who go on to enroll and graduate from post-secondary programs, and information about the impact of dual enrollment participation on the time and cost to complete post-secondary degrees. This data collection will also provide critical insight into whether the benefits of this program are available to all Georgia students, and will provide state lawmakers with the data to make changes in home policies where such action is needed. Georgia is a national leader in dual enrollment. SB 508 is critical because it will allow the state to more effectively quantify the impact of its investment in dual enrollment and ensure that all students benefit from the program. Thank you. I'd be more than happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Thank you for your remarks and joining us. You may or may not know, but someone in this audience surely does. You say Georgia's leading in dual enrollment policies nationally, which is great news. And do you have can you quantify that? Do you do that by comparing how much we invest versus other states? Maybe shed some light on our leadership position and what qualifies us as leading in this.
So I think Georgia is definitely a national leader. One of the specific areas I think is something that was being mentioned shortly before I came on video, which was the very generous financial contribution that Georgia makes, particularly covering for students up to 30 credits, and the number of students that you see participating in your programs. There are some other policies in place in other states that have done a little more around transferability, creating cores of content to ensure that courses transfer. And I know that's something that Alfred works on, and I'd be more than happy to answer questions about that as well. But I think particularly the number of students that you have engaged and the financial program that you have set up where students bear no cost for their first 30 credits in particular is a really generous and exciting infrastructure from Alfred's perspective.
Thank you.
Any other question? Mr. Harrell, are you number 10?
This isn't necessarily a question for our guest who's making testimony. So is it appropriate that I ask the question at this time or make comments at this time? Okay. So it is my memory, as this committee worked on this issue a few years ago, that there was an audit of the dual enrollment program done by the state, which I spent a good amount of time studying. The auditors had a difficult time auditing the program because the mission of the program was not clearly stated. So they didn't really know what to audit because that mission was missing. I don't recall in the work that we did that we actually ended up with a clarification of what the mission of the program is. So I do think we need this data as baseline data so that at some point we can go back to that conversation and clarify the mission of the program. And we can't do that without good data.
Any other question? I do believe that if you read the dual enrollment bill, the mission is straightforward. It's to give high school students the opportunity to avail themselves of post-secondary education while they're still in high school. And it saves them time, and it very likely if they apply themselves, they can gain or achieve a year's performance of college while they're still in high school. So it gives them a year of their life that they would not ordinarily have because it'd be spent in school. So they could be working, get out of college earlier. I mean, it's all about offering opportunities for students. I guess the thing that, again, it's a question in my mind, since this is a self-select program. I mean, people, it's an opportunity you can either avail yourself of or not. If you have different demographic groups and you you have a relatively low performance, I don't see that that's being a denial of any services. If people just don't want to go, they don't want to go. To be honest with you, I'd a whole lot rather go quail hunting than go to the opera. But that's a personal choice that I make. And so, if you did well, no, wait a minute, let's talk about this. I don't know that you're going to be mandating people to take these courses or try to get them to take a course if they don't have any interest, because most of the time, the folks that you see dropping out of high school are the ones that don't have any interest in being in high school. So to me, again, I think the mission's clear. I've just got a question in my mind, what the path forward would be when you get the data, because you cannot make people take a course. Well, I guess you could, but I don't think it's the intention of the program to make people take a course that they do not want to take. And even the people that are vastly excited about it, they're not going to be able to take more than 30 hours. And, it would be, I think we need to analyze and know what percentage of students are actually taking college credit courses and are that have a pass rate of the ones that are enrolled that we go on, we're obligated to pay for. How much return on investment is the state of Georgia getting? But as far as collecting a lot of personal data on the students, I don't see where that really factors into. So,
Just as a comment, I work with a lot of dual enrollment students, and they are excellent. The vast majority of dual enrollment students are dedicated, hardworking, conscientious students, and their success rate is well above the general population. So let me start with that. But the reality is, how do we know what's a good policy? And as the chairman suggests, would we change our policy given additional information? And I hope we would. I hope we make the informed decision to do that. But I do think that those students who are currently engaged in dual enrollment, I'd suggest that the vast majority, it would be borne out by the data, are extremely capable and effective students. I'd also point out that if that student is taking the core courses that are required as a freshman or sophomore in a collegiate environment, if they're taking core courses, it will lead to earlier graduation. Now, part of the problem, I believe it's addressed in another piece of legislation, is how do we channel them into taking the appropriate collection of courses? Because Chairman's correct. It's very difficult to get an 18-year-old or younger to focus as clearly as perhaps they need to be at that point in their life. And they need good counselors and good parents and good teachers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't say anything.
Senator Perrin?
I was just, in case there are any further questions or comments for me, I felt like I should come back on the hot seat.
We'd hate to deny you the opportunity to be on the hot seat. Senator Orr.
I don't know if I'm gonna put you on the hot seat, but isn't it true that the last time we were looking at this as a committee, we did come up based on data, early data, with recommendations, and one point being the price point, and made a change in what the grades were going to be included in this. I mean, which was a big change. We cut it in half. It used to be ninth and 10th. So that's an example to me of looking at data and then making a policy decision, to a course correction, if you will, to target our dollars and where we wanted to spend them. That's just one example of why I think more data can help inform us and guide us on the policy path.
The data on the dollar side of it, we went from a projected cost to the following year of about $125 million to about $100 million. But what the data we had and we analyzed, the vast majority of the students, they were not taking over 30 hours. But you did have some individuals who would take random, I want to take this course, I want to take that course. There was no career pathway for higher ed. It was just taking a wide range of courses, which, as the lady had said, it was functioning as an exploratory. And really, what the courses were not being taken in a way that would lead to a diploma because a lot of them were not related. And so what we tried to do was put more focus on it. So,
Right,
you know, they'll make a conscious decision.
right.
And I think that's very wise. The path we took at that time, I think we cut out some of the abuse that was in it and put more focus on it. It's I just
Yes.
think there's things we need to think seriously about. If we're going to do it, how is it going to be implemented, and really how could it affect future policy? So just to have more data collected, I know serving on the school board, I made the statement this morning. We collect reams and reams and reams of data. The part that was lacking was the analysis of the data that you draw, that you'd form good decisions and policy making from. So I think we need to use whatever we collect and
Uh-huh.
have an end in mind. But as far as the mission of dual enrollment, I don't think there's any question about it, because we had, I think, 5 early enrollment programs that we combined
Uh-huh.
under the broad heading of dual enrollment.
Mr. Chairman, to the extent it'd be helpful, I'd love to offer just a few examples of things we've seen at All for Ed of ways other states have used data like this to impact their dual enrollment policies. Because I do think the question is a crucial one, if that's all right.
Go ahead. We've got just a short time. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, we got,
So one of the things I think, the way that we're looking at it now, we would not intend for any of this data to be used to shut out a group of students from the program. To your point, I think, like I said before, one of the things that's really exciting about Georgia's infrastructure is the way that it's open to so many students. But I think that the way that this data can be used is not just in the infrastructure of the dual enrollment program, like the policy. This can also be used to inform policies and regulations in the department. For example, if we see data that a student that takes one dual enrollment course has a certain amount of success, but a student who takes a sequence of 3 courses has a lot more success, we can actually bring that back to high school counselors to counsel that students take a sequence, or we can actually use that data to inform how we encourage students to take those courses. We can also look at, if students aren't participating in a certain geographic region, maybe they're not getting access to information about the program. What can we do to make sure that their counselors are explaining it? Do parents there understand how beneficial the program can be? And can we use that data to talk to the community about that? So it can be used in those ways as well, like with softer policy, not just changing the underlying law. But then I think also there could be things in this data that completely surprise us. And we come back as lawmakers and look at the program and say, you know, are there things that are working really well, things that are not working as well? And then we can make those adjustments. So I do think this additional data provides a really comprehensive, almost 3-dimensional picture of how the program is working that allows us to change things, not just in the law, but also in how we administer it, how the districts administer it. That's going to be really critical in making sure that students understand the opportunity in front of them and are using it in the way that is most impactful, most beneficial. And the way we're going to understand what's most impactful and most beneficial is also through this data. So that's why I think this information is so critical, even though I know Georgia is already collecting some information on performance and completion of credit, but this additional information is going to provide that in a way the current information the state has doesn't give as clear of a picture.
I'll also add to this discussion that the Southern Region Education Board that Georgia is a member of, consortium
uh-huh.
of mostly southeastern United States. I think there's 14 of them, if I'm not mistaken, has done an extensive study on dual enrollment, and they're in about the 2nd year of it now. I think probably close to the end of the 2nd year. They've had several hearings, and it was obvious to me from participating in those that Georgia is a leader in dual enrollment in terms of opportunity. And when I say opportunity, I think it's both a financial opportunity for a student to avail themselves of it, but also in the wide range of disciplines that they could pursue according to their own desires. And there again, it's a self-select program, and people are not mandated to take the program. but those who have the interest have a great deal of freedom to exercise in making those choices. I'm going to stop there because I had agreed to allow an organization, Common Good Atlanta. It's about, they are about providing inmates in the Georgia prison system an opportunity for post-secondary training from colleges and universities. I'd like to hear more about it, just in terms of the mission, the success. I'd also like for you to address the inmates that are enrolled in this program. Are they actual students at that time of an institution? Do they, upon successful completion, do they get a student transcript that would be acceptable in other institutions different from the one who's providing the professors? Just tell us something about the basis of it, because I think the state's interested in rehabilitation and the issue of recidivism, and I think we've all seen the statistics showing that education is tied. The amount of education is tied to the incarceration rates in the state of Georgia. So if you would speak, if y'all would, whoever's speaking, introduce yourself and tell us who you represent. Yes, ma'am.
So Mr. Rodriguez will introduce it and I'll address the credits and the transcripts.
Good afternoon. And just first off, thank you to every senator today for the service that you provide here in the great state of Georgia. My name is Patrick Rodriguez. I am an alum of Common Good Atlanta. I'm a formerly incarcerated person who's done approximately 5 years in the Georgia Department of Corrections. I'm also the Director of Advocacy and Community Engagement, and I currently work with Dr. Sarah Higginbotham here with Common Good Atlanta. So what you have in front of you here today is a comprehensive policy brief going over, number one, what it is that Common Good Atlanta offers as it relates to credit-bearing courses here in 4 different prisons here in 4 different prisons currently. And we also have a course where we offer formerly incarcerated people and to kind of address the accreditation, which I'll allow Dr. H to go a little bit further into that, but we work off of what is known as the Clementi model. And so the students go over 5 different disciplines, which allow them to receive 6 college credit hours. And then in between what is offered from year to year, we offer what are called bridge classes. And those courses can be 1 college credit hour. So a student can receive anywhere from 6 to 9 college credit hours, and Bard College accredits us, and those credits are allowed to basically be transferable to here at any USG school in the state of Georgia. And so just really quickly, I have had just to share my testimony a little bit, if that's okay. When I first got out in December of 2019, I came across Dr. H in the downtown classroom, and not only was it a classroom offering courses, it was a community that was built to support people in what their adventures, or not adventures, but whatever they were going to pursue, right? And so I wanted to pursue attendance at Kennesaw State University. And I remember sitting in a broom closet. We're in a small little facility, right? And Mr. Taft and I are talking. He's the academic director. And Mr. Taft says, so what are you trying to do? I was like, well, I want to go back to Kennesaw State University. And he's like, how are you going to do it? And I was like, well, I guess I got to apply, you know? And so he's like, all right, well, let's go ahead and do it. But it was somebody who was able to kind of keep me grounded, right? And keep me focused onto what it was that I was looking to do. I was able to successfully get re-enrolled at Kennesaw State University, and I graduate this semester with a bachelor's in organizational communication with goals and dreams to hopefully attend law school here in the state of Georgia. And so after you guys are able to take and look over the policy brief, which is presented here today, which kind of talks a little bit about prison education statistics, just really quickly to highlight some. In 2020, 46,855 people were incarcerated in Georgia. Fewer than 1% have a college degree when sentenced to prison, and fewer than 5% of people in prison have access to a college program. And so why is that important? In 2020, federal legislation was passed, which enacts Pell Grant to be accessed by everybody around the nation. And that will start to happen in 2023. And so as we kind of think about this as a broad issue as to what is about to come, Pell money will be available for incarcerated incarcerated people again after it was stopped in 1994. And so Common Good Atlanta plays an essential role in being having great relationships with the Department of Corrections, but also thinking about the $600 million that is going to be invested in the prisons that are going to be built. What is it that the Senate could do to support the reduction of recidivism by investing in programs such as this? So what we do know is we do understand clearly that the Georgia recidivism rate is somewhere hovers around 50%. There has been a slight decline by, I think it's about 5%. But what we also know, according to a RAND study done in 2015, is that after a bachelor's is obtained in college, the recidivism rate drops down to 13%. With a master's in With a master's, it actually drops down to like less than 5%, and anything beyond that is essentially zero. Common Good Atlanta, we have done our own data and research on the students that go through our program, and we are currently at less than a 1% recidivism rate. And so that means that all of the students that have gotten out, less than 1% has been released. And so to kind of verify that data as well, the Georgia Department of Corrections released an impact report in 2020, and they highlighted the college education programs. And this is what they stated. I don't think it's in this policy brief here, but I memorized it because it's one of my favorite statistics. Those individuals that participate in the partnering program, such as Common Good Atlanta, the recidivism rate was 0%. And then those that participated and then did not finish the program, it dropped down to 35%. And so what does that mean? I think that that means that there is a direct correlation in the programming that is offered to incarcerated people and how we can play a role in supporting that program to overall reduce Georgia's recidivism rates here in the state of Georgia. Are there any questions?
We're against a hard stop in about 3 minutes. We've got another committee coming in. Any questions or comments?
We'll let Dr. Ace address that.
Hello, I'm Sarah Higginbotham, a professor at Emory University, and I can address how the credits are awarded at a long-term prison, Phillips State Prison in Beaufort. We accredit through Georgia State University, and there the people who are incarcerated are working towards an associate degree. What we found from working closely with the GDC commissioners and also the wardens is that the other 3 prisons where we're active are where the wardens really need us to be. That means that the people who are in those men's and women's prisons will be released in about 1.5 years. When we go through Georgia State, we need a longer on-ramps because they have to go through state testing, right? The SAT alternative. So at 3 other prisons, we are able to get them up to 15 credit hours from Bard College, which is an elite college in the Northeast. Those credits absolutely transfer to any college in Georgia. We've had great success with them transferring, and they can get the transcripts while they are in prison. I can address any questions.
If you would, tell us which other, the names of the 3 other
Yes.
institutions.
Yes. So Phillips State Prison in Beaufort, Burris Correctional in Forsyth, Whitworth Women's Facility in Hartwell, and Metro Reentry, which is the new prison in East Atlanta that just reopened 2 years ago.
Okay.
So we have credit bearing classes in all of those. And then we also have a downtown class partnering with some other nonprofits downtown so that if they don't finish their credit hours inside prison, they can transfer, even when they're in the transition center, they can still finish those credit hours. We do not let them slip.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of you for making the presentation today, and I appreciate you being with us. We stand adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.